It's really important to start every morning with a belly full of a nutritious breakfast. I'm usually super busy in the mornings though, so I only have time to make something really quickly. My solution, an easy make-ahead granola parfait. It has Greek yogurt, homemade granola, and macerated berries, which just means berries with a little bit of orange juice on them, so all of their juices come out and it's really rich and fresh. It's so delicious. I'm gonna start with my granola. It's super simple to make. I'm gonna take some oats and put it in my bowl. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of brown sugar for sweetness. Gonna add a little bit of coconut because it gets really toasted and it adds a really nice crunch to the granola. Next, I'm going to add flax seeds, and these little seeds are packed with protein and really good fat, so they're delicious and a great addition to the granola to make it a little bit more balanced. And with those flax seeds, that makes this parfait a perfectly balanced breakfast. I have fruits and vegetables, I have grains, I have dairy, and I have lots of protein. This is a perfect example that protein doesn't have to come from meat. You can get protein from nuts, from legumes, and even from yogurt. And the last of my dry ingredients are walnuts, which I'm gonna roughly chop. Before I add my liquid ingredients, I'm gonna mix this together just to make sure everything's really well blended. So next, I'm going to add a little bit of oil, and this just keeps everything really well lubricated, so nothing's gonna stick to my pan. I'm just gonna mix that. And next, I'm gonna add my honey. And a little trick with adding honey is I added the oil first, which means I have a perfectly oiled cup. The honey is gonna come right out. It's super easy and no sticky mess. Oh, look at that, right out. I don't have to get my fingers in there and get super messy. And now a little bit of vanilla extract because it just makes this whole thing sing. It's so nice. Here's another little tip. If you love clumps, if you plan on eating this with milk for breakfast like you would a cereal, a really easy way to get clumps is to get a little bit of egg white in there. And what that does is the proteins in the egg white bind everything together, so you get really delicious clumps. So this is perfectly whisked up. It's nice and a little bit frothy. So I'm just gonna add this right on top. And because I just used raw eggs, I'm gonna clean up my space and then finish mixing my granola. So I'm just gonna mix this up until everything's really nicely coated. One of my favorite things about granola is it's basically just oats with a little bit of honey and whatever else you want to add to it. I chose walnuts and coconut for mine, but you could do pecans and chocolate chips. You can do anything you like to it. Well, this is really nice and mixed, so now I'm going to coat my baking sheet in a little bit of aluminum foil. And the great thing here is, well, first off, there's not as much cleanup, which I always love, but it also just creates a really good surface for your granola to cook to. So it's not gonna really get super duper stuck. So I've lined my baking sheet. Now all I have to do is put the granola on and then bake it. So make sure to spread out your granola just so it creates a nice sort of thin layer. This makes sure that everything gets really nice and crunchy and that clumps form. Once I spread this out, it's into the oven to bake while I macerate my fruit. All that macerating means is I'm basically marinating the berries. So I'm just adding an acid, which today is orange juice, and it's gonna leach out all of those beautiful fruit juices. So it's gonna be really juicy and really fresh. I already have some of my favorites, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, and I'm gonna cut up a couple of strawberries because they add a really nice sweetness to the whole thing. Great, so I'm gonna add these to the rest of my berries. So colorful. I would eat these just like this. So first, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange zest. And all the zest is the very top part of the skin, so it's really sweet and full of beautiful flavor. And what I really love about orange zest is it gives it a really great citrus flavor that just balances out fantastic with the berries. So I'm just gonna add a big pinch to my bowl of berries, just sprinkling it on top. There we go. The next step is I'm gonna add a little bit of orange juice. And what this does is the acid in the orange juice starts letting out all the juices in the berries. It's really delicious. I'm gonna get my hands in there and just make sure everything's really evenly coated and mixed up, and make sure that the orange zest is evenly distributed. And the reason why I'm adding orange juice rather than the traditional sugar and lemon juice is because it's for breakfast and I want something light. I don't want something too sugary or sweet in the morning. The fruit goes back into the fridge to macerate, and it's time to check on my granola. After 10 minutes, I'm just gonna break it up and turn it over, then bake for another 10 to 15 minutes until it's golden brown. So my granola is perfectly golden brown. I'm gonna grab a clump and give it a try. It's just the right amount of sweet, it's not too much, and it's gonna go perfect in my parfait. To start, I'm gonna grab my Greek yogurt, which is kind of the glue that binds the entire thing together. I love Greek yogurt because it's really thick and super rich and filled with protein, but if you can't find it, feel free to use regular yogurt. I like mine unsweetened because I have honey and berries to sweeten this enough for me. First layer. And the trick here is to keep it balanced. You don't want one thing really overtaking any of the others. So now I'm just gonna add a little sprinkle of my granola right on top, just for a bit of crunch. Next, I'm gonna add some of my berries and their juices. Love this, it's like fruit on the bottom yogurt, but way better. And last but not least, I'm going to add a drizzle of honey. It just makes the whole thing glisten, and it adds just a little bit of sweetness that's really lovely. Well, that looks good enough to eat.